I've heard really good things about the Salvation Army. Everybody says they do a great job. So I don't want to listen to people complain. I want to listen to people who have done a great job, know how to manage something, and can train other people to do the work.
Right.
Because to me, once you have a system that works, you want to repeat that work, and you want to train people who do the stuff the way that it works instead of trying to reinvent the wheel all the time.
I don't think you want to say train. I think you want to say consult.
Oh, consult. Okay.
I would not want to. I would not want to train somebody because what is good in your neighborhood may not be so
Right.
in my neighborhood, and it depends on who we're dealing with. Some people, some people need a job referrals, or some people need mental health, help.
Mhm.
But then some probably don't. Some are just down on their luck and just need to get back on their feet.
How did you decide who was going to come into your?
So that was the only thing that as co-chair I did not do. And
Okay.
part of that was because of privacy issues. So
Okay.
HSH had gone to people, people who were homeless, people
Mhm.
they found that were living in their vehicles, and said, "Would you like this opportunity? How can we help you? And what are your goals? Because we want to get you into permanent housing." So, so they did all the work. I was only there with my community, um, walking side by side with HSH, and
Okay.
you know, but
And
we,
was it Emily Cohen? Is
yeah,
that the name
Emily
of the
Cohen and
person?
Dylan
Okay.
Schneider. Jeff Buckley is with Asha Safai's office. Is that right?
Um, I guess no, I was told that he was the person who I'm getting confused. He was the person who worked on this project, but he may not be there any longer. I talked to 2 or 3 people from Safai's office. I started with Bill Barnes.
Okay. Yeah.
Why don't we start with Steven telling us how they started the Triage Center and how he got involved, and just kind of walk us through the process.
So this happened. This Triage Center happened, and I know Al, you're here, and you were there with me. I think it was in 2018 when our supervisor Safai had located a temporary vacant spot to house people who were living in their vehicles, and apparently met with HSH in the Department of Homelessness and thought this would be a great location. He called a community meeting at Balboa High School that was actually quite volatile. Um,
Sure was.
yeah, it was. It was, I mean, people were very, very adamant about, homeless people. Like I told you that homeless people are criminals and they're drug dealers and they're useless and they can't be trusted and whatnot. And what basically happened was it was put in Balboa Park BART station in the open space on the upper area, and we started an advisory group, and we invited people, and I think it was mostly HSH and Safai's office that invited people to be in this community group. And what happened was there were a lot of negativity. The Department of Home, the Coalition on Homelessness also was there and was very skeptical about this whole thing. But what we decided was, and I think, and it wasn't me that decided it, but it was somebody else that decided it, that, if we're going to do this, let's do this right. And let's, have not only HSH who's running the meetings, but let's have the community be part of running the meetings. So they have a hand in what's going on. So, the co-chair, who I was, like I told you, I was nominated by somebody who we had words in the past, but she said, Stephen, you know how to run a meeting, you know how to bring people together, you know how to keep things in line, and I would like to nominate you as co-chair. And I agreed. It worked, and it worked very well. And the person who nominated me actually was secretary of our meeting. So notes were taken and they were given back not only to the community and posted it on their website, which is Cayuga Improvement Neighborhood Association now, but also with HSH. And what happened was the community turned itself around from being a very negative, unwelcoming group of people to totally 100% the opposite. We worried about the people that were there. We wanted to make sure that they were happy. We had in the Excelsior, we had a food bank that actually donated food when they had extra food, like on Saturdays. They'd call me and I'd go pick it up and I would drop it off. No, they didn't. Now, a lot of these people didn't have kitchens and whatnot, but there were, they were prepared foods in I could donate, or pick up and donate to them. For instance, Thanksgiving came. We found a way to have food donated, Thanksgiving dinners donated to this group. And at that time, there was probably about 40 to 42 residents at the Triage Center. Christmas time came around, and we just decided as a group that, you're in our neighborhood. We want you to celebrate Christmas just like we do, whether it's Hanukkah or, whatever it is. And so the community, they put a list together. These people, residents, put lists together of things that they needed, and it was mostly, shampoos or toothpaste or whatnot, or maybe slippers or socks. The community came out. I went down and bought a tree in HSH, and decorations, and they, those people in that community decorated the tree, and we had presents for them. It was absolutely, I have to say, District 11 patted themselves right here, because we did a great job in turning the whole negative thing around to be a very positive thing. Like I told you, there were rules and regulations that these people had to follow. One of the things was this was not a parking lot, so you couldn't drive in and drive out. You were there to accept services from the city, whether it was, health services or mental health services or job training or, finding a job that the city could find for you, schooling. And only one person out of the almost 44 people that were there was asked to leave because they didn't obey the rules. And we had the support of Ingleside Police Station, where at every meeting we had a representative there. So we actually did, I think, a fantastic job in helping people who were down and out. And we're dealing with now with the Mission Inn motel that was purchased by the city, and we're going through that negativity process again. So we have to go in and say, look, these people need help. There are rules and regulations. They have to, we're doing them a favor and helping them out to get on their feet, to get to permanent housing. And, if you need a job, we're going to get you a job. If you need health services, we're going to get you health services. We're going to help you. So if you follow our rules and do what needs to be done by and for the community, then you're well on your way in being successful, and we are too. So when the VTC actually sunsetted, which it was 2.5 years after it started because of I told you, the construction of the housing there. people in the community were really upset because they knew that they had good neighbors. They had people who, they didn't bother them. They didn't steal from them. They didn't break into their cars. They didn't, break into their home. There were people who needed help. And that's what this is all about, as far as I'm concerned. And Mary and Al, since you're here, back me up or add on to what I'm saying, because you two were also part of it.
Well, Jean has her hand raised, so let's see what she has to say.
Well, I'm first of all extremely impressed by your story, but I have a gazillion questions. I don't want to monopolize the meeting. First of all, were these people living in their cars or in RVs? Or did you provide shelter for them? That's one question.
No, they were either in their cars, vans, RVs, whatever vehicle they were living in.
Okay.
But we provided them with places to shower, bathrooms. There was a trailer there that if they needed to microwave a burrito or something, I mean there were facilities at the site for them to use. So,
and then I guess the next question is, it sounds like you had people from the city coming and providing services of various kinds. Do you know how many of these people found permanent housing during that period of time?
I think out of the 42 people that we had, I think there were 12 permanent housing. There were 12 people permanently placed in housing.
And what about the others? Because you said it's closed now, so they had to move?
Yeah, unfortunately, and I think some of them now are in Bayview. And all of them had to agree that if the city found them permanent housing, that they would actually, accept the city's offer.
Yeah.
Although, the questionable thing about this is that if there are people that owned, their mobile homes, not mobile homes, but RVs or whatnot. I mean, do you give up your RV to move into permanent housing? And that was a stigma.
Yeah.
But they were also counseled by, mental health people on, we'll get you this, but we'll also get you a job and we'll get you other services that you can, rely on to get you on your feet.
Well, can I just ask one more question, Mary? What explained the fact that the community turned around from being so opposed to it to being so supportive?
Because they knew that the community was actually part of the solution. The community actually, so if the city was only doing this, and you have a lot of people, and I took a survey today about what's going on with the city. A lot of people who question on what the city is doing and what their goal is, or whatever. But if you had the community with the city moving forward, and the community says, well, this will work, or maybe this won't work, but let's move, let's do this. I think it was the community that actually pushed forward on getting these people.
But I thought you said that the meeting was quite nasty and people were very opposed.
The first meeting.
So what changed?
Because the community got involved and were part of the advisory group.
It sounds as if they didn't trust the city, and the city was the one that was starting to run it. So once they handed over to the community was happier about the situation to start with. Basically, people don't trust the city government is what it comes down to. I just had two quick questions, and I let Judy ask hers. You didn't mention two things that I was concerned about. Laundry facilities. Did they have laundry facilities there?
Actually, yes. They didn't have laundry facilities there, but the city got a contract with a laundry group that could come in, take their laundry, and then clean, and then bring it back.
That seems to be a really big stickling point for people.
Yeah.
And also electric, they have electric in their, okay, in their house or whatever, their
Yeah.
car, whatever.
Yeah.
Because I spoke, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
I-
no, it was brought in through the city. And
Okay.
I think we also had a representative from BART. So, because that's BART property, BART and Muni property. So we had somebody from BART and Muni there.
Oh, okay, okay, Bart, and okay, great. The reason I'm asking is I spoke to a friend of mine who has a daughter who's homeless and is drug problems, who lives in Oakland, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but she told me all they really need, all her daughter really needs is a place to hook her phone up to recharge it, 4 walls, a place to recharge her phone, and trash bins. They have no trash bins. So I'm very annoyed with the city. I'm sorry, people complaining about the trash on the street. I don't think that's the role of the residents to deal with. I think that's something that the city really falls down on. And if I were going to demand anything out of them right now, it would be pick up the trash and don't tell anybody else to do it. Because even if you pick it up, where are you going to put it? There's no bins to put it in, and you're certainly not going to haul it away. So to me, that's the biggest thing right there. But I
This was
just
this was the cleanest area of the Balboa BART station.
well, this is the other thing that gets to me. People, I guess right now, there's another group. You can tell us about this in a minute. There's another group that's trying to put together I guess we're going to do tiny houses and RVs in a place in the Bayview, and there's no residences anywhere nearby. This is all industrial area. So of course, some of the neighbors and the businesses are complaining because they say, oh, it's a mess. The streets are a mess. Well, how about if they give you a place to put them so they aren't making a mess and it's clean?
Yeah.
To me, that's the argument. It's like, give them a way to be clean. Do the trash pickup and they won't be trashy. You know, human beings don't want to live in a pile like that. So I had one other quick question. Now, as far as you know, were the people that were being chosen, we'll say it that way, by HSH, were they the people that were the ones that wanted a place, or were they the ones that were being tried? Oh, let's get you off the street. Were they the most difficult ones, or were they the easiest ones to place?
No, I can't answer that because one of the things, like I told you earlier, there was a privacy issue.
Okay.
We did not know who these people were, but I'm assuming with the conversations that I've had with Dylan Schneider and Emily Cohen, these were people who wanted to change their lives. They wanted to get out of this situation. They wanted to get to a better place. If they did not want to get into a better place, well, the cities have said, you know, we can't make you do this.
Right.
But if you want to change, if you want us to help you, that's what we're going to do. And
Okay, well, that's reasonable. And were there mainly people who were not doing drugs, or did that seem to make any difference?
You know what?
You don't know that either.
Only one person in the one that was asked to leave
Was doing.
disobeyed the rule. And I don't know what that rule was, but we had people there, including the people that weren't actually permanently placed into housing, that obeyed the rules. So I am assuming, and I take this assumption very seriously, that these people were on the up and up.
Okay, that was okay. Judy?
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I don't know if I missed this or not, but am I to understand that when someone accepts permanent housing, they must give up the vehicle that they have? Is that true?
I don't know for a fact if that is the truth or not. What happens is if they accept permanent housing, then they've got to find a place to park the car. So if there, depends where the permanent housing is. If it's residential permit parking, can they afford it? Because it's not cheap to get a year, residential permit parking. And if it's an oversized vehicle, where are they gonna put it? So it's, it's up to that person to decide what they're gonna do with that vehicle. So obviously, if it's a car, it's not as much of a problem as it is, an RV. That's if you go down Lake Merced, it's just RV after RV after RV. They're
Right,
huge.
it's also turning into that on the lower Great Highway, since the
Yes,
Great Highway has been closed.
yes,
That has now become a camping area. And
absolutely.
as soon as they move them away, they come back the next day.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Did anybody else have any questions? Okay, maybe it's gonna be a short meeting. So, do you know anything about the places, other vehicle triage areas or any other, the places in the city that, are anything about the other places? I know there's that one that they want to do in the Bayview. And I believe there's a couple in District 10.
I know that there's only one in District 10,
well.
which was originally going to be where Candlestick Park was, but
Right.
The residents, across the street, I mean, they were just so adamant. It did not make any difference what I said or my experience or our experience in District 11 was. They just weren't going to have it, because I think in District 10 they have issues, and they have issues with homeless people. They have issues with drugs and alcohol, and they have issues with firearms and whatnot. So it's hard for them to get out of that
Mindset, yeah.
mind. But Shaman Walton actually found a place, and there is one there, which is not it's still not maximized with vehicles. And I was not aware that he's trying to put another one in District 10.
So the one you're talking about, is it part of the Port Authority's project?
Yeah.
And what I understood was the manager basically almost went to jail. So the manager was not doing a great job, but I guess that place worked in spite of the fact that the manager was not doing a great job, which tells you something.
Yeah.
And I believe we'll be in touch with Shaman about that, because I think it's something that will probably be happening pretty soon. So are you kind of one of these people who gets involved in other neighborhoods projects when they're trying to put them together?
No, they came for me. They asked, they.
Oh, okay, but you would accept.
I don't want to go. I have enough to do in this neighborhood, right, Al and Mary?
No, no way.
You don't want to let him go, huh?
Like I said, I've been pulled into this Mission Inn motel on Mission Street.
Uh-huh.
And so, that's my new puppy with the neighborhood, to make sure that this is as good, if not better, than the Vehicle Triage Center was.
And will they have a place to park their cars since it's a motel?
Actually, that's one because most of these people don't have cars. So
Okay.
we're on a transit rich, corridor, which is Mission Street. So you've got Mission Street, then you've got Balboa BART Station, I-280 and whatnot. So that our first meeting was last week, and that was
Okay.
the question. So we'll get through all those questions, through HSH and the city and SFMTA. So we can see how we can open up this property, if we need to open up this property, because right now it's fenced off. And I'm really pissed that it is fenced off, because it looks like a prison. So
Yeah.
I want it to look like a place where people are normal, and they come home from work or they come home from school and they're okay. They don't have to walk through a gate because they're afraid that other, people are going to come in and either rob them or sell drugs or whatnot. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that this is going to be a normal place for them and a normal place for the people who live near them.
Okay.
I don't want, I don't, and I'm also, I don't have much experience with this, but my church does. I'm a member of St. Mary the Virgin on Union Street, and the closest homeless place like Mission Inn is called Edward II on Lombard Street,
Yeah, I know that is, yeah.
and it's been very, very successful. We have volunteers from our church that go in once a month and cook dinners for these people. We donate sheets, and blankets and towels and socks and whatever they need, if they need something. But these are mostly transitioned foster youth who come out of
That's
foster,
right.
and they go into something like this as temporary to move on to permanent, housing. So it's been very successful. And if you think that District 11 was totally negative about the vehicle triage center, the people in Cow Hollow were 100% negative about something coming in near Pacific Heights.
Yeah,
And it's turned out to be an absolute gem. So,
yeah.
and the people who will be working with Mission Inn are Dolores Street Services and Larkin Street Services, which is part of the people who are running at Edward II.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so since I know about what's going on with Edward II, I have only great positive, things going on about the Mission Inn on Mission Street.
Okay, so it's the same church or whatever?
On
People,
Mission Inn will be, District 11,
right?
mostly neighborhoods. The one in
Okay.
at Edward II is St. Mary the Virgin, who's
Thanks.
part of this.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, I'll have this on a tape so I can look at it. So, does anybody else have any questions?
Mary, say something good.
Hi, Mary.
I was
good
gonna
to see
ask you a question, because you said you had a meeting already and I was supposed to be on the group again. So I didn't know about any meeting already.
You know what? I will tell Barbara.
Barbara Frugate asked
Oh.
for my info and I thought I was gonna get notified.
Okay, I'll tell her. It was a brief meeting. We're gonna have one next month, so I most definitely will get you involved.
I
So-
just wanted to say that through Steven and the rest of the group, we brought a lot of humanity to the situation, because you get a lot of facts and figures and you get the bureaucracy. But with all of us being in the room and hearing what Urban Alchemy was saying, what people were saying, what the needs were, I just was so proud of D11 and the big hearts everybody had. If we said, they needed something, somebody would say, oh, I got extra blankets, I got this, and we just made sure that, especially for the children too, there was children in the, and they needed coats and they needed, warm stuff, and they needed backpacks for school, and so different stuff. So I was just really proud of our neighborhood. And I did go to Shaman 2 years ago. I had gone to Juneteenth at Gilman Park, and I saw all the RVs lined up in all the trash, and they had no bathrooms and everything. And I went both to the mayor and Shaman and said, this is what this is what Asha did over here. And he formed an advisory group, and that made all the difference. And I would recommend you doing the same thing. This is not humane the way they're living. You have the space here to do, an RV park, but you need to do it like it was done in D11. If you want it to work, you need to get the community involved. So I hope it will be just as successful. The need is even greater over there. And yeah, I was just happy to be part of it. And I think Stephen and Barbara Frugate did a fantastic job as co-chairs. And like I said, brought a lot of humanity to it and made sure that the needs were met. We would say, what about, when they started out, what about laundry? What about food?
Yeah.
How do they get meals? We would just ask everything. And they were very open to the suggestion. They didn't fight it. They said, oh, this is what we can do. This is what we can't do. What about this? And so everybody was very accommodating, open-minded about it. But it is an expensive undertaking. It's not cheap by any means whatsoever. And that's part of the problem. It costs a lot to get the laundry, to get the electricity, to have food brought in, on a regular basis. The shower, it's not cheap. It's a really expensive $2 million undertaking, depending on how many, RVs and how much everything. So that's kind of a sticking point too. And I know that I had talked to Myrna Melgar about it. She was interested, but again, it's where you're going to put it and who's going to, they have expensive places over in D7 and they're going to protest even louder.
But the thing is that they're saying they're spending $1 billion a year
Exactly.
on this. So where's that money going? I think you could take some of that $1 billion and put it into these probably less expensive, more humane, certainly cleaner operations. I think people would do their own cleaning if they had the opportunity. If they got their own RV, I bet it's real organized, They know where everything is and it's very clean. So I think it's really important for them to find places that have like utilities and stuff. It's ridiculous. I can't do this. A candlestick. It really is, because there's a heck of a lot of area out there. And they've got plumbing, they've got electrics. They don't need PG&E to come in and do it. All they got to do is just, hook it up. And that's not that big of a deal. They've also they could work with Habitat for Humanity or any of those people, I think there's just some other kind of reason why this stuff isn't happening. I think that, I don't know why, but there's some people that don't seem to be. What we had today is we found out that there's a ACA 15, I believe, or 16, I believe it is. There's a 15 and a 16. Basically, there's some people in Sacramento that are trying to do something about the fentanyl crime, the criminal element of bringing it in. Our representatives, Ting and Haney, did not support the bill to get it to the floor for a floor vote to do something to make this a more serious crime. And I just want everybody to call them and say, what are you guys thinking? All we want is to get this stuff off the streets. How do you expect to get it off if there's no, there's no any reason for people to quit doing it? You threaten them with a murder rap if somebody dies, and they're maybe going to think twice about it. So I don't know, but I'm very discouraged by our representatives not representing what I believe are what the needs and requirements are of us. So I'm going to put out notice. Please call these guys. Tell them.
Mary, I have to go soon because it's getting close to 11
sure.
o'clock and I raised my hand.
Oh,
Go ahead.
So can I ask a couple of questions?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Two things, Steve, or either Mary or Steve. You said that the people followed the rules. Was there anybody, was this just sort of self-governing? Did these people just cooperate and follow the rules, or were there minders or police or city employees who made sure that things stayed orderly?
So the people who ran the vehicle triage center was Urban Alchemy. And so they were on site 24/7.
Okay,
So they knew the people that were there. They knew them personally. And I don't think that they were really babysitters, but they just made sure that everything ran smoothly.
sure,
And
okay,
like
And that-
unfortunately, like the one person, did some stuff and was asked, well, we're here to help you, but if you're not gonna follow, the rules, then we're gonna have to ask you to leave, and that's
right, right,
what it was.
okay.
We
And
also
then-
had and this was also 2 blocks from Ingleside Police Station.
Right,
So, and then of course the BART police are, I don't know, I
Yeah.
don't know if the BART police played any role in it, but anyway, it was a very safe. I would actually walk there in the middle of the night because it was so well maintained.
okay, that's great,
That's part of the
I'm also-
cost, was the 24/7 urban alchemy
right.
being there.
I'm just also wondering, the people that were so supportive in the community that you said came out for Christmas and did this and did that, was this a pre-existing neighborhood group, or was this sort of an ad hoc group of people that came together for this?
No, I think it was some of the people who were actually negative about this actually saw that it made a difference to people who needed.
But it
this-
wasn't like a pre-existing neighborhood organization.
Yes, it was partly. It
Yeah.
was part of the members of the group, which is Stephen and Barbara and, and then they belong to groups and get the word out like, oh, we heard they need blankets. Who has extra clean blankets? And who can, I brought on Christmas Eve pies for the whole group, and whatever I heard, and if I could afford it or whatever. And so we would either do it ourselves, part of the members of the group, but then we would let our groups know, hey, do you want to, in the spirit of Christmas and Thanksgiving and the spirit of humanity, can you help out? And everybody, without a doubt, said, yeah, I can do this, I can do that.
I'm just wondering also, this location is very close to City College. Were they involved at all?
No,
No.
No. Oh,
not
okay.
really.
Are you gonna do it again? I mean, I gather this was for a finite period of time. Are you gonna be able to, or is there construction going on there now?
Well, no, so there is an apartment building that was actually, it's been constructed, so
Right,
getting ready to open. But we're doing the Mission Inn Motel, which is on Mission Street, about a block from Sickles Avenue, which is near the Daly City border, that the city purchased for to house homeless people permanently or in transition. So that's what we're working on now.
Do you have any photos?
Of the Vehicle Triage Center.
Yes.
Wow, who would have photos would be HSH.
Okay,
So I would contact Emily Cohen.
okay, okay, great.
I'm sure she does, because I know that I've seen some floating around, but I don't have any personally, but I'm sure they do.
I think, and I'm in the Mission, I think in my neighborhood, there is space for people to do things. And I think that people would be more open if they could see how organized it looked and clean. And for some reason, I haven't even seen any of the tiny houses. I know that there's some on Goth, or they were on Goth. I know some people like that idea. And they're mixing them. And I'm also just wondering, you said there were 44. Do you think that that's a good number? I mean, if you get 44 people
I
together.
think we had a maximum of 50, so we never got to the maximum, but it worked well with that number. I
So
know in
we wanna-
Bayview,
yeah.
in Bayview, currently it's a lot higher than that.
Uh-huh. Well, I'll be curious to talk to them to see if there's often numbers are really kind of an important element in creating a community. It's easier to, kind of organize and get along with 50 people than it is 100.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
a certain point, it gets unwieldy. So that's another reason, I think, to keep it kind of you know, a smaller group.
Mary, do you know exactly what the cost was?
No, with the cost of.
No, Mary Harris said that it was. millions.
Mary Harris.
No. Mary?
No, I don't recall.
I don't think we ever got
Yeah.
a cost, either a cost estimate
Somebody
Yes.
must know.
or
Yeah.
the actual. I don't think so.
Who would have that information? Would Safaid?
HSH.
Oh, okay. Because if it's not that expensive, the less expensive it is, the better, easier it is to sell it to other districts.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then finding the space also is kind of a thing. I think that needs to be sort of a group effort. I mean, I gotta say, in the mission, we've had some situations where I just drove past this navigation thing on Van Ness and Dubose, and I can't even tell where the entrance is. It's right next to the freeway. It's huge. They spent a fortune putting it up there, I'm sure. I can't tell whether it's being operated or not. All I
Oh,
know,
you're talking about Goff in,
no, I'm talking about the one that's on, it's right where the freeway entrance is onto South Van Ness, off of Van Ness onto the freeway. It's Van Ness and
there's one by the City College offices. That's Goff in South Van Ness.
right. I know about that one, but the one I'm looking at is this, what is a big tent thing that they put together. I don't know whether that's operating or not, but I do know that they have had a huge amount of problems with one of them on South Van Ness and 25th. And it seems like, not naming any names, there are some organizations that are very bad at managing. There's some nonprofits that are very bad at doing it.
Yeah.
And that seems to be, that one is really bad. The neighbors have a lot of trouble with that one. So it's not that they're against it. It's just they have a lot of problems with it.
Wow.
They're also, what we were told when a few years ago, we had somebody come in, we used to have live meetings. We were told that the program is, if they have any problems dealing with these people, they just let them in. And then if they have any problems, they just throw them out on the street. So we end up with these people that have been strewn onto the street right next to the navigation center. And that creates a lot of animosity among the neighborhood. So that to me is a real problem. But I definitely want to look into these managers that you're talking about and see if we can't, work with some people like that if we're going to do something in our neighborhoods.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think that's a big deal. So it looks as if everybody's leaving, so we could end the meeting. Thank you so much for showing up. I'm just very thrilled that you came. And you gave us a very upbeat report, because that's what I wanted to hear,
Good.
was an upbeat report. We're so appreciative of the media, our local media. So many of them have been doing a fantastic job of investigating these details of these situations. And I'm hoping CSFN will be able to donate something to the investigative reporters, because they have done a wonderful job of informing the public about what's going on.